Hi, I'm Old Norse Specialist Jackson Crawford, hitting you today with more of a quick take than a lecture. I have worked on various media projects over the years, and one thing that I have often decried to my partners in these enterprises is the use of the same old public domain 19th century and early 20th century woodcuts and paintings again and again and again, to the point where you see all the same pictures on, every Wikipedia page and on the Google image search for Thor or Odin or whatever. They wind up on this, all the same pictures on all the websites. They wind up in all the cheap books. It's just, I have gotten to where I really, really dislike seeing these pictures. And of course, some of the websites and books you're going to see them on are not just of low quality, but questionable intent. As occasionally were the original creations themselves. I am just sick of seeing these pictures. I think there's one in particular that I see the most of, this picture of Thor, or it's meant to be Thor. I mean, you can barely tell except that he's holding a hammer, because he's this, as far as I can tell, clean-shaven blonde guy, not a red-bearded guy who perhaps looks more mature, as I would expect Thor to, beating up these old guys who I suspect are supposed to be Jotnar or giants. It's just, it's so stereotyped. It's so overused. I just can't stand it anymore. Now, people start looking for pictures to put into presentations. And of course, the advantage of all these old pictures is that they're public domain. So, sometimes I get the counter question, well, if you dislike these pictures so much, what's something free to use that you do like? I would say, well, there's a lot of artifacts that are good illustrations. I mean, we don't actually have Viking Age or early medieval drawings or paintings of Thor and manuscripts, at least none that we can recognize, but there's at least interesting runic inscriptions or picture stones. The Hjengvida stone, for example, or Ardra 8 with Odin. I think part of what happens, part of my objection to using these pictures, to go back to that for a minute, is that your eye washes over them by now, right? You've seen them in 300 places. I think that it's more eye-catching just to say, hey, we took 2 interns in our office, put a red wig on one of them, and had him throw a hammer at another guy to illustrate our Thor article or something. I mean, at least that's different. At least I haven't seen that before. At least I'll remember that visually in a different way. For my own videos, I don't use a lot of pictures. If I'm showing you a manuscript or an artifact or maybe a map or something like that, obviously I'll have a picture, but I don't look for illustrations for the sake of illustrations. And maybe that's a problem with my presentations. I do try to make up for it by showing you beautiful locations of my Rocky Mountain homeland and sometimes other places I happen to be. But I also think that it's really worthwhile for media companies doing presentations about Norse mythology to try to set themselves apart more, even if they do insist on illustrations. And one way to do that, maybe the best way to do that, is to talk to living artists. Now, I'm not going to try to sell you the work of any particular living artist here, but I would say that, there's so much talent out there on the internet, and so often we don't look past the quick freebies on a Google image search, but gosh, there's just so many good artists working right now, and I think that there are 4,000 artists who can do a better job than these 19th century, early 20th century, often very weirdly ideological painters and woodcutters, and who might actually be better informed if they spend some time reading the source material, as I'm not always sure those old artists did. I suppose what this is just a quick video update to express why you don't see those pictures on my channel, and to encourage people to let these damn things lie. I've seen them too much. I'm tired of them, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And if you want a presentation to really stand out, there's so many other options, whether from just showing more artifacts to paying a living artist a reasonable amount to make something that will really pop and be unique to one particular presentation. Okay, one more thing while I'm up here. 19th century, early 20th century pictures look old to us, but they are much closer to us than they are to the Viking Age or the early medieval period. The artists of this period, even the scholars of this period, in fact, probably had less access to the Viking Age or the early medieval world than we do, just because of the new information, the improved understanding of old texts that's often accumulated over that last century. So, this kind of connects to my frequently repeated mantra that the past has passed, and just because something is 100 years old doesn't mean that it's anywhere near equivalent to 1,000 years old, any more than a blade of grass is a good representation of a tree. Right? So the excuse that these pictures are old and therefore closer to our Viking Age or medieval sources is an absurd one. There's my quick rant for you today. I hate these pictures. I encourage you to find other ones. From beautiful Colorado, let me wish you all the best.